Well, let me call the October meeting of the Administration and Projects Committee of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority to order and welcome you all here. I think it's going to be a short meeting, so if you have something to say it early. We'll begin with public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone here to make a comment on an item that is not on the agenda. Seeing no one take that up, the next item is the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second by Commissioner Pierce and Commissioner Arnerich. All those in favor, please say aye. Okay, next item is, it's a unanimous. Next item is the consent calendar. These are items we will act on in one consolidated motion unless an item is removed by anyone. I have a note from staff that on item 6, there was a typo on attachment A that the base work should be $565,000 versus $85,000. The total is still the same. So we can't accept the old version and save money that way. But with that amendment, does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent calendar?
I would move it, but I just want to make a comment. Item 4, which is our quarterly report, this is an 85-page document, which is robust. I just sort of hate to see it on consent. And I tell you why. It's because, one, it's telling the history, who we are, what we're doing. I've looked at it. It's well done. It gives us a pretty deep level. But just somehow to the public, I just think all that work that goes into that. And I worry that if we're not really discussing it or kind of hearing it, neither is it going to happen then at the full board. So just, I don't know, maybe in the future, is there a way to?
Well, one option would be every quarter or every trimester, we could just take it off consent for discussion and brief presentation by staff.
Because it's kind of good.
I think monthly would be a bit much.
Yeah, no, I agree. but it would be nice to hear from staff sometimes, maybe on a quarterly basis, just to kind of do the comment, because there's the written word. And again, I just appreciate the depth and everything that's in there. Otherwise, I'd move the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion by Arnold, second by Pierce, with the understanding that what I would suggest on this is that the staff work with the chair to find a meeting that is otherwise relatively light to pull this item off.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because otherwise we have a lot of things and we may not want to do it. So, but on a roughly quarter to trimester basis. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. It's unanimous, and both of these votes have been with Commissioner Butt absent. The next item then is a discussion of State Highway 4. Mr. Ramirez, Ms. Miller.
There we go. Okay. Susan Miller, Director of Projects, and we're doing this presentation together. Ivan Ramirez, our Construction Manager for CCTA, will be doing part of the presentation. So speaking of the quarterly report, it's been a while since we've been here to report out an update on Highway 4 and the EBART project. So it's been a little bit of time. It's due for that. It's good to highlight some of our big projects, and we do have good progress and good news to share with you. So I'm going to kick it off. I think you're all aware that the project from Loveridge to Hillcrest is 5 separate construction bid packages. So in that project, the overall widening is about 2/3 done. So motorists will be able to use the completed modern roadway, we predict, by mid-2016 of next year. The Loveridge project and the Summersville project were both completed. Loveridge in 2014, Summersville in 2013, and open to traffic. So those are being used as we speak. And then the next 3 segments will be done, as I mentioned, in 2016. We expect that Contra Loma and G Street will be open to traffic in the westbound direction by the end of, I believe that should be the end of this year, 2015. And we've also, Ivan's going to go through 2015. Ivan's going to go through some more detail on what's going on with the eastbound direction. So Lone Tree and Hillcrest will finish right around about the same time. We're thinking by early spring, early summer, mid-spring, late spring. The additional projects in the corridor 160, the connector ramps will also be completed in 2016, early in 2016. So there's a lot happening next year. The Sand Creek Road interchange was completed already, and we've completed landscaping at Lone Tree Way. The Balfour Road interchange construction in Brentwood is expected to begin next year, mid-next year. We have utility relocations that have already started. PG&E joint trench work, they've already relocated transmission towers, and we're working with Kinder Morgan. They have some major relocation going on for their facility, so we're working with them to get that underway. I have some good news to report out on the right-of-way acquisition, and this is also a topic of the following board item, item 9.2. The right-of-way acquisition from Summersville to Hillcrest was performed by Contra Costa County Real Property Division, and they really did an outstanding job. They acquired over 400 parcels, and this included approximately about 130 separate owners of those parcels, and they completed the acquisitions ahead of schedule, which allowed us to proceed with the construction projects. Now that we've accounted for everything, we have a savings in what we anticipated for the right-of-way capital costs of about $2 million. So those dollars will go back into the reserve for the Highway 4 corridor for use if we need it during the construction to close out construction. We will be doing, as I mentioned, an amendment for the county to continue their services for some of the closeout work and some things that are going on during construction. We are also doing follow-on landscaping. So in this particular phase, Caltrans is doing the design. We will have 2 bid packages. They will also do what's called the AAA. They will advertise and administer and award the contract, or award the contract and then administer. And the first bid package will go from Loveridge to Contra Loma, and the second from Contra Loma to cover the connectors. We've completed the design of the landscaping plans for the first phase, and we've done presentations to both Pittsburgh and the city of Antioch and received their comments and incorporate those. However, we're deferring going out to advertise that project because of the drought. In the meantime, we're working with Caltrans to identify potential reclaimed water sources for the project. There is a line that comes down at Lone Tree Way, and so we think we can tap into that. And there's another at Railroad, which is just off the map here to the west, and we're looking at can we bring that in so we can have reclaimed water for the freeway landscaping. It will also be followed by a 3-year plant establishment period, which will begin after the landscaping is installed. Plant establishment period. Yeah, thank you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ivan, who's going to go through some of the construction challenges that we have going on.
Is it possible to ask you a question? Are you going to go away?
No, I'm going to stay right here.
Oh, okay. With the El Nino issue, and then we just had a light rain, and oh my God, it turned out Highway 4 on the bypass, not necessarily through the Lone Tree, and going through there turned into be just crazy. If the El Nino does hit and it comes in a real fast pace, how are we going to look safety-wise out there? Are our contractors going to try to make that, okay, would that be better for you? If you could kind of address that, or maybe give me an idea of how we're going to help that situation, because it could be a mess. But do that whenever you want.
I think I can address it now. One of the things that we are trying to do, and I'm going to go over that in my presentation, is working with the contractor to try to get as much work that is going to be exposed to rain ahead of schedule. And a lot of that work on the connector ramps, we have basically the bridges are done, and all we have is dirt to do. So we're actually contemplating even accelerating the contractor, pay a little bit of money, get that work done ahead of time. And we're also looking at options for segment 3B. Those are projects that CCTA controls with Caltrans. They administer those contracts. We can certainly have a conversation with them, and I'm pretty sure they're looking at that too. Now, as far as safety during construction, theoretically, all the rain that comes into the freeway, whether it's temporary or permanent, should have a way to flow out. So it's just a matter of, for our crews, the construction crews, making sure that the temporary drainage are unclogged, that nothing is going to clog it, that we have our our sweeping measures in place. Those are the ones that prevent the silt from running over. Not only is it a quality for the fish and the river streams where it eventually goes, but it's also a concern because you can pile up and create puddles. So another thing that we do is if we have a rain event coming up, we actually tell the contractor, you got to go out there and make sure that these are in place. We don't rely on them just doing it on their own. And so those kind of, and if it's on a weekend, we're probably going to have a staff member out there. So we have done all of those in the past. Unfortunately, it does happen from time to time when we have a situation where there's a puddle, but eventually somebody will let us know and we'll get out there and fix it as soon as possible.
I guess, and help me, Susan, the one, remember the low spot? Was that under the overpass on, was that?
At
Was
Leverage.
it Leverage?
Leverage.
And is
Lake
that? Lake Leverage, there you go. Very good. So is that done?
Yes, that is complete. We have a brand new pump station too that was an early stage that we did for construction, so that area should be fine.
That might have predated my time here, Mayor, so I wasn't aware of that issue.
Yeah, so you accelerated by change order drainage facility on 3B, right?
Drainage? Oh, yeah, well, yes, I can talk about that. I will show you what that, I'm going to show, I have a picture over there. Since you brought it up, I'll show it. Good morning, Chair Tatson, Commissioners. Ivan Ramirez, Engineering Manager. I oversee the construction program at CCTA. I'm going to give you a quick update of where the projects are. Contra Loma, Segment 2. That project really, it's winding down. We're really doing the final touches. Except that an issue developed over the last few weeks where we had some settlement of the roadway in the eastbound direction. If you looked at the photo on the upper right, you actually can see a crack on the paving, and on the left side there's a shadow. That's actually settlement of about 5 inches. That settlement is occurring over a pipe that was constructed under this project that belongs to the Contra Costa County Flood District. Now, there's an ongoing investigation right now with Caltrans and the contractor to determine the cost of that. Until a cost and a fix is determined, the eastbound lanes will not open. The westbound lanes, on the other hand, those will open, and they will open on late October. The pipe doesn't impact that traffic. When we do open the westbound lanes, it's going to be a net increase of 3.3 miles. Eventually, when we open the eastbound lanes, those will have a net increase of 4 miles, lane miles. And also the BART median, which is really important to BART, that is not going to be impacted by this work. So we are going to, or Caltrans is going to turn over that to BART in mid-October. Yeah, at the last bullet there's a tally of the total miles that have been basically given to the public on the westbound direction between Lovebridge and Segment 3A. And I put Segment 3A in there because when we open Contra Loma, it's going to be a small segment that belongs to the Lone Tree Project, Segment 3A, that is going to open at the same time. On the eastbound, we have given the public 12.1 miles. On the westbound, 11.1 miles. Lone Tree Way, this project, primarily the work is occurring at the Caballo Road Bridge. At that location, the eastbound and westbound traffic is on the new permanent paving on the westbound, and we are constructing the eastbound. Once that work is completed, we're going to be able to transfer the two eastbound lanes onto the new eastbound paving, and that's going to allow room to construct the BART median, and that's going to allow us to do the grading inside the median, turn over to BART, which again, that's something that it's really important to BART. They're counting on us giving it on time. And after that, there's going to be some work on the off-ramp and on-ramps at Lone Tree, and that will basically complete the work. At this point, like Susan mentioned earlier, this is likely to happen in the spring. It might run into the summer, depending on any El Nino conditions, like the mayor was asking. Here on Hillcrest Avenue, this is a project that the authority is administrating. And the work that's going over here is actually a little bit the flip of what's going on Lone Tree. Here, we have traffic on the eastbound side while we're constructing the permanent westbound lanes. If you look at the picture there on the lower, this that plaque right there, that's this one right here. That's the permanent work that we need to have done after the permanent concrete is over here. And the reason why that wasn't done up to now is because we had a clearance problem with the bridge that we were widening. So we won't put the permanent concrete until the false work is down. As you can see from the picture, the false work is down. So we're going to be ready for that work. So once we finish that work on the westbound direction, the black paving is going to be replaced with permanent concrete in 2 stages. First the north side and then the south side. When we do the north side, we're going to take that opportunity to put the bark barrier. And what's important about that is that because all the weather days that we have had to give the contractor because of the concrete, cannot be too hot, cannot be windy, and there's a whole conversation we can have about the spec and what it says, it doesn't say. But because we're going to be able to do that work, we're going to turn over the median to BART by February 1st, which is the hard date that they have on their contract. Their contract has to have unimpeded access to the median. So that's been our primary goal working with Caltrans, and I have a more discussion in another slide. So aside from that work, we're working very hard to complete the BART maintenance tunnel, and that's the access to their maintenance yard underneath westbound Highway 4. So as you well know, we're also doing some work for BART. That includes the entry house, the station, and the pedestrian overcrossing. Right now, there is a number of issues between the contractor and BART as it relates to the pedestrian overcrossing, related with paint and priming, also with the aesthetics of the concrete at the entry house. So we're working very hard with BART to address those issues. BART wants us to give them the tunnel ahead of the median. So we're also going to work with them. I think they want to store some materials there for the winter. So we are going to make that happen. I don't think it's going to be an issue. And like I mentioned earlier, we have to turn over the median to BART by February 1st. This is a rendition of the BART station. It's looking, this picture's taking, or this rendering is like you're looking south. So the structure closest to us is the entry house, and the one further out is the platform. So, this is an action item.
Out of curiosity, on this Hillcrest issue with the disputes, is that an issue over disputes about what the specifications were, or how the work was performed, or what?
So for the concrete, it really can be interpreted to be a very subjective issue, right? Because it's how the concrete looks. Concrete to me might look different to somebody else. So it's an issue of what the contract said the concrete had to look like, and also how to fix it. If it doesn't look quite like you wanted, how much tolerances are in there. So it's subjective. In my opinion, it's subjective, and therefore it requires a lot of discussion.
Okay, and then on the Hillcrest item where it's saying pedestrian overcrossing, steel priming, and painting.
Yeah, that's an issue that occurred at the plant where the contractor had issues with the priming. Our staff told the contractor it's not good to release, but we cannot really stop him from releasing it. He came to the site with the understanding that the fixes were going to be done on site. So there's a dispute between BART and the contractor as to the level of fixes and also as to how many fixes should occur. That's the nature of that dispute.
And are we involved in that, or?
We are involved because we need to find a way for these issues to be settled. Okay. And a lot of these things, progress is not being made for a number of issues, and so my job is to make sure that we're having a conversation and hopefully a resolution that is something that everybody can agree to.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Commissioner Arnerich.
Thank you for the report, both of you. Still exciting projects. It's amazing the amount of work and the time that it's taken, and we're close. But to go back to the third item, the very first one you mentioned in terms of issues, where the concrete was poured over the existing pipe. So was that a pipe, when we say existing, was that there or was that done by another group as part of a requirement for this? And how do we, it's kind of like we have a standard, and I always have, I'm picking on Caltrans. Caltrans standards to me are just annoy me because they use the same solution for the same problem that fails time and time again. And you can look at 580, you can look at 680, and you can look at 24. We all know the soil types, but the solutions are the same thing, and so the roads fail. Is this case, or is that an existing line that's been there for 20 years, and we didn't do impact testing on it? Or was it put in and nobody did any compaction tests on this? Or do we not know what it is?
So the portion of the pipe that's in question here was constructed under this contract, so it was part of the work.
Under the same contract, so
Yes.
it's a subcontract to put it in.
Yeah.
So it's not our problem.
I think that's Caltrans. It's certainly not this problem. Caltrans has taken the position that it's not their problem.
Shouldn't be the owner's problem unless they're saying, again, what I'm getting back to, that there's a spec says, oh, I did it the way you told it and it doesn't work. But do we have verification that the compaction and stuff went to the pipe, the backfill, and everything was done?
So we have had those conversations with Caltrans. Some documentation they don't have.
Commissioner, here's another way of looking at it. It was supposed to be bore and jacked. It wasn't. It was open trench placed, and then soil brought in over and compacted, and then there was settlement issue. It's not our issue until it delays our contract. Then it becomes our issue. So we have taken we're a partnering agency.
Right.
So we don't go to arbitration. We don't go to dispute resolution boards.
all.
So our mantra is deal with the issue now. That's why he's dealing with Bart on this facade issue. He's in his numerous meetings. It's really not our issue, but long down the road, it will be our issue when it delays our contract. And we have to come back to you because we have to keep our consultants on board longer. And we know that, sometimes we get our commissioners get excited about that in a negative way. And so he is trying to deal with this issue now and trying to drive the resolution to find out whose issue it is and how we're going to fix it, so then we can go in and we can pave over the top and fix it. Otherwise, it's going to cause a problem for us.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'd like to kind of hear the resolution on that. I think the other ones those are kind of things that happen all the time. This one's a little bit more significant in that you're going to have to rip it all out. I mean, there's no question. It is settlement. You can see that. That to me has more potential for delay and stuff. And truthfully, that's a more short-term thing. The sooner we can get that done, we can open that and get people. So anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just a point on that. It hasn't been 100% established whether the settlement happened under the pipe or if it just happened over the pipe. And there is investigations that are going on whether that happened, and that's what the documentation is missing. After the pipe was built, nobody came in and provided a survey of the invert elevations to be able to say, no, it happened or it didn't happen. So, but it's an ongoing discussion. I would assume that, the Contra Costa Flood Control District has to buy into the repair. So that's another wrinkle into this process. So over here, may I move on now?
Commissioner Taylor had a follow-on question.
Yeah, the part where you said Bart is going to wants to store things for the winter, who's responsible for Bart moving in early? Obviously, it would be early, and then you said that we will be ready for them to move in. And what if we're not?
No,
In other words, how responsible are we to Bart on that issue?
This is in essence a collaboration effort. We don't have to turn that over to them until the median is turned over to them. They have made a request to us, and we don't think that it's a big thing for us to turn it over to them. So, because when we build stuff for Bart, their facilities, they have their own process of acceptance. What I have asked of them is, please let me know what your acceptance is, because once I turn it over to Bart is completely responsible for anything that happens in that tunnel. That's right. So this point, the point that Randy was making earlier, this box here, this is actually a retention box, and it's huge. And that box, we work very hard with the contract to take it out of the rainy season. As you can see, we're barely beating it. But what we didn't want to have is that big hole open the entire rainy season while we were building it, because it would have delayed the project. So we worked staging and acceleration some work so that we could get this out of the way prior to the rainy season. I think we're going to be able to do it if, the next couple of weeks have a good weather on them. So I hope that we'll be able to do it. You see it, you're seeing it, right? Okay, so that's the rendering. So this is, this is an action item. We're asking for additional money. Some of that money was used because we were, as part of these projects, we're trying to make things more efficient, or maybe remove work that it duplicates, or to make it safer for the public. We're always looking at those opportunities. And this one here is a perfect example of what we did. If you look at this picture on the blue side, that's Hillcrest project. That's the project that CCTA administers. And the purple is a Caltrans project. These projects were not thought of when they were being designed as being done necessarily at the same time. But you can see that the crossover for our project is on our project, and the crossover for for Caltrans is on their project. And so we looked at the scheduling of both projects. We also understood that we have the same contractor and we have the same designer. And we say, well, if we put the crossover on their project, that will free up all this work here for us to get it done, and that will eliminate 2 stages of work, which, it's convenience to the public. They don't have to switch traffic. It consisted also of a savings of $32,000 to the project. It eliminated a month worth of work that comes with the associated support costs. And one last thing that came out of it is that if you look at this, let me see if I can backtrack. You see at this merger here, you see that they're both are coming at a sharper angle, and they're coming at different elevations. So it wasn't really an optimal way to merge traffic. Since we increased that ramp and we brought them at the same elevation, there's actually better opportunity for the merging traffic to see each other and provide a safer, more smooth flow. So that was an added benefit that Caltrans was really happy with, because it improved the safety of the project. So doing these kind of things has saved in construction costs about $625,000. And that part of the rail that I told you earlier that I was going to be doing in 2 stages, and now we're going to do it in 1 stage. We're going to put the barrier so that we can turn it over to BART. That's another thing that we have done, and that's going to save 2 months. So I'm moving now to the connector ramp projects. Last time I was here, I gave you an update on the railroad and birds and the weather. See here, you can see this picture. It's kind of amazing that there is this egg there. This bird, we literally went through the project, and dozens of potential nests we removed. This one, here we're hammering. We have cranes. We have trucks. We're dumping. And there it is. So, but anyway, so that picture to me is quite amazing. So unfortunately, that project should have been wrapping up around this time. It's moved now into January 2016. Coming up, we're going to be removing all the false work. We're also, if you look at the lower left photo, you can see that we're preparing the ground for the road. And this is where we really have to get going and trying to beat the rain, because if there is a rain event and it's significant, an overnight rain, an inch, you won't be able to get to work there for a week and a half or 2, because you have to let it drain so that you can actually do some work over it. Other than that, you're really just moving dirt and creating holes because the ground is too wet. In addition to that, we made an effort to use recycled water, and on this project, on a daily basis, we use 40,000 gallons of reclaimed water as opposed to potable water. If you combine this project and Hillcrest, it's 100,000 gallons of potable water that we're saving. So here is a picture, an overview picture of the project. You can see the bridges are done.
Ivan, we're getting that water from Brentwood, right?
We're getting it from the Iron House Sanitary District.
Okay. Since I reading in the paper this morning that they're getting ready to shut down Livermore, I thought, uh-oh, I want to make sure we have a continued access. Okay,
And then Brentwood, we were ready to give.
okay, very good, thank you.
And I believe we're going to use Brentwood for Balfour. Yes. And finally, Sand Creek project, this project, we opened traffic ahead of schedule. Projects under budget. We had additional money. We did a landscape request that it was done to us by the city of Antioch. It was still under budget. We added that work. Award-winning project. We have projects from CMAA local chapter. Now we have one from the national. We have a International Partnering Institute award, and we also are finalists in AGC of California competition. Project use 10% small business enterprises. During our sweeping inspections, all of them were green flags. They were no yellow or red. And to really call this project a success, I have to have Caltrans accept it. And I'm shooting for spring of 2016. And with that, if you don't mind, before I take other questions, I will give you an update on San Pablo Dam Road. That's the project that we opened bids Tuesday. Unfortunately, the lowest bid came 6.2 above the engineer's estimate. Checking that I've done, it has to do with the fact that we are doing work for the school district and its higher standards, Division of State Architect requirements. And, the type of contractors that we get don't do that kind of work, so they were a little concerned about that, and that's the reason why they're high. But between the first bidder and the third bidder, it's only a 1.5% difference in their bids. So that, to me, indicates that we have good bids because they're razor-thin margins between the three of them. So other than that, I'll leave it open to further questions. No, 6.2%.
They're not in order.
No. Well, there's the number.
No.
Okay. Great. Are there any further questions, Commissioner Pierce?
Yeah, only because I saw and had a couple of posts on Facebook directed to me where somebody saw an article about water permeable concrete, where they literally take a tanker truck and they dump the tanker truck and it goes straight through the concrete. Why aren't you using this on our roads? I need a good answer, other than my answer would have been cost and maybe strength.
So this is my, I am not expert on the matter, but for stuff like that is good for parking lots. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's good for the main highway. We're going to have heavy loads.
Right.
I don't know if Randy has a different answer about that.
It's not good for expansive soils.
Well, Caltrans it's not one of, it probably isn't approved by Caltrans as for use on interstate or the state highway system yet, so they're not using it. They do cap the existing concrete with open graded asphalt.
Okay.
A friction course in many states to bring the noise down and get that, so you don't have the splashing. Mm-hmm. That's really what the customer doesn't like, is when you have the rooster tear coming off a truck when it's raining. And so they look for that surface course, but it's good in parking lots, but under heavy truck loading,
It would break up.
yeah,
Okay.
it's not going to last that long.
Okay. I just, since it's out there and people are starting to circulate it on Facebook, I figured I better have a good answer that I can put out there and squash it before they think we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Commissioner Arnerich?
So what was the solution? You said we were 6.2% over. What reserves do we have, and how are we going to deal with this in terms of the San Pablo?
We always plan for the worst, and in this case, it's not the worst. We still have good contingency in the project to cover the overage we have. We also, our supplemental work on the contract actually included like $900,000 in work that was originally on the contract. So we're still within what we planned we're going to be for the entire contract.
Good. So we're going to stick then with the scope of work. We're not going to try carve this. Okay.
And you'll
Good.
bring this to the authority in October or back?
Once we review the bids, I think it'll be an informational item for the authority. And
Okay.
So we have to review the DBE goals, make sure they're met. If they're not met, we have to make sure that there was a good faith effort I don't know, we don't know at this point if the lower bidder has met the DB goal. So once we do that, it has to go to Caltrans for review. It takes about 10 days. So it's not exactly known when we're going to know to to send a letter telling our intent to award. That might trigger a protest. I don't know how long that takes. It seems like we get protests in all our projects. Our goal is to bring it to the board for award at the November meeting, November 18th meeting.
All right. So,
We have an X.
anything else on this before we go to 9.2 and 9.3? All right, so why don't we proceed to 9.2, which is the authorization to execute an agreement with the Contra Costa County for additional right-of-way services.
And this is my item, as I mentioned during my presentation, the county's done an outstanding job in acquiring right-of-way for us, and their services need to be continued. So we're proposing to amend their contract, amendment number 7, in the amount of $200,000. And this is largely to take care of some of the remaining work, such as the transfer of some BART parcels, facilitating that and working with BART to include that in our package where the property will eventually go to Caltrans. And then we have a sale of a surplus property, and we have some other closeout activities that will need to take place. We are also in this asking for action, as I mentioned, to reduce the resolution by $2 million for the capital cost, since it's determined that we do not need to hold that amount. So those are the two actions that we're requesting.
Any questions or discussion?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Taylor, second by Commissioner Pierce. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Brings us to 9.3.
So this is an action item as well. This is an amendment for our design consultant, T.Y. Lin. We are asking additional money for additional right-of-way engineering services for as-built preparation according to Caltrans standards. And also, in addition to that, additional design services, because like I was mentioning earlier in my presentation, we have spent some resources trying to do some changes to the staging and the work so that we can do it more efficiently and in a more timely manner. So with that, I ask for your approval of this amendment.
Okay. And the cost is
The cost
$400,000
is
roughly.
$400,345.
Motion by Commissioner Pierce, second by Commissioner Taylor. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And it's unanimous. And before we end this, I just wanted to thank you and everybody else who was working on Highway 4. One, it was a good update to bring us up to speed, but
That's great. Thank
it's nice to see how progress, and I particularly like the fact that when there are issues that are coming up that even if they're not ours, we're getting involved to try and get them to go away before they really impact the schedule or the cost. So thank you.
Final question,
Yes.
but maybe to Randy. Are we noticing an uptrend of bids?
Yeah, so that was a question, actually, I'm pretty sure Commissioner Pierce is going to talk a little bit about our investor tours. So the one of the questions from the investor community was, how do you see bid prices? And I said they're rising, and you can see it on Ross Chart's CPI index for construction, and it's going up. And it's weird because oil's going down, and generally the price of fuel causes the price of cement and steel to go up because that's what it takes to make the commodities. But it is going up. We've had almost 8 years of very kind of low pricing, and it's starting to rise up. In this case, on the bid that we just recently opened, the good news, we got 9 bidders. 22 contractors pulled plans. They paid for pulling those plans. They looked at them, and we have 9 bidders. And we we advertised it in a time when Caltrans wasn't advertising very much work, if any. And so we got pretty good bids. I think Ivan hit the nail on the head. It's either the contractor bid the risk or we didn't identify it as a risk of going into the school district. So maybe the engineers on our side, didn't do enough risk analysis on, what does it take to really go into the school grounds and those kinds of things. So you can look at it 2 different ways, but they are rising a little bit. That's where we're trying to accelerate and look for ways of getting Balfour out sooner than later, because it will save us some dollars. And so we're looking at, because we need your help to move or help accelerate the movement of the jet fuel. What is that? Kinder Morgan. So we may have a conversation with you, Mayor, about that to try to expedite that. The other thing is phase the construction, advertise the construction now. While they're moving or doing the things they need to do to deal with the pipeline, phase the first phase to build the abutments or the dirt and surcharge the dirt for the interchange now and get the project out. And then phase 2 is once they move or do the things they need to do for the Kinder Morgan line, then go in later. So we're talking to our construction management firm, taking a look at the plans, trying to figure out a way of getting these things out to construction sooner than later.
Any other comments or questions regarding Highway 4? All right. And I have no chair comments or reports. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Pierce.
Just very quickly, and I'll let Randy fill in all the details. As he mentioned, and as you know from last month's meetings, we went out to refinance our 2012 bonds, and we met last week on Thursday night with Alamo Capital. They did an open house for many of their investors and their clients in Walnut Creek. It was very well attended, lots of really smart questions from some local folks. I even ran into some folks I hadn't seen in over 30 years. It was kind of old home week, but they asked some very, very good questions, and it seemed that there was a good bit of interest. I'll be very interested to see whether any of them actually were part of the purchase that took place yesterday. But we went back to Boston over the weekend, and the bonds were sold yesterday. And I'm going to let Randy fill you in on the pricings because of our AAA rating. We did even better than we had anticipated. As you know, our goal was to save about $4 million through the refinance, and we did even better, and Randy can give you that. I just want to say a huge thank you to our staff who did a spectacular job of this presentation, to the Citigroup and Wells Fargo folks who we've been working with, to PFM, a special thanks to Peter and Alex and the whole team that organized everything, because it was a beautiful thing. It really was. So, Randy, take away the thunder, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Pierce. So just to kind of recap, $166,165,000 worth of bonds. That was our goal. We were going to sell $100 million of new dollars, and then we were going to call the existing bonds to save some money. That was about $65 million. Within 14 minutes, we had $166 million worth of bonds orders in. Within an hour and a half, we went 6 times the amount because people wanted our bonds, and so we shut the orders off and we started negotiating price. So the bottom line is, we got a 2.586% interest rate. Wow. $5.8 million we saved, and partly because we're such a good credit rating. And then on the debt service reduction was about almost $1 million. So once again, it's better to be lucky than good. We hit the market exactly probably at the right time, and we're, Brian Kelleher could get more into the details of the spread and the margins, but very opportune time to sell those bonds and call the existing bonds in. So hopefully we do the same when we do our private placement of our floating rate notes.
Yeah, I would just add to that there were bets going in on Monday night or Monday afternoon when everybody went their different ways, and from the finance folks, they were betting 2.7, and it came in well under that. So that was pretty cool. So anyway, congratulations to everybody, and congratulations to us because we got another $5 million we can spend.
Well, congratulations to the finance team, but also to the operations team, who's demonstrated that we over-deliver and under-promise, and that, I'm sure, goes part of the way to the AAA rating. So,
Well done.
Well done. All right. Any other staff comments? No? All right. Then we are adjourned until November 5th.
Great.
Thank you.